Hey everyone, it's the Eclectic Candyman here today looking at replacing worn out or just plain busted storm door hinges. Let's get into it. Okay, so your storm door may have one or two hinges. It could be at the bottom, the middle, and the top. Like on this one, I've got one here at the bottom that's in rough shape. And then I have this one here at the top, which is just a little bit different because it has this mechanism to hold the door open. I'm going to be replacing both of them today. All right, so the only thing we'll need are some replacement hinges, maybe a small hammer and a screwdriver. This is a pretty easy job and a little bit of muscle to open and hold in place. I got these from Lowe's. They're made by Wright products. I have a standard hinge, and then for the bottom, I'm going to switch it up and use one of these, what they call tap and go. You can tap it with your foot, which I find more convenient, but the anatomy of these things are very basic. Let's take a look. So the only thing we have here are a couple of screws mounting it to the door. We have the hinge plate that also has 4 screws, but I'll be honest, I'm probably just going to reuse this one. I don't see the need to remove this and put in a new one, but it's up to you if you want to. I just would prefer to keep the integrity of these holes and not loosen that up and have a different problem. And then you have 2 pins that are just held in by pressure. That's what I meant by the muscle when we hold it into place. So we'll pop this one out and pop this one out. And installation is the reverse. So we're going to start by removing the screws and then popping out the pins. Just a couple other things to note on the replacement products. Again, these are pretty standard and they're come in different variations. If you have any problem or you have some kind of non-standard storm door hinge, the place to look is on the inside of the door, right in here. So if I open it up, typically there's a label, and in this case, it's a Larson door. This is pretty old. It has some numbers here that would help identify it. If you have something proprietary or you need a new handle or something, find this information. That'll help you out. All right, let me start by saying that the absolute easiest way to remove this, if you are doing same closer replacement, it's the same length. There's no problem with this bracket. There's no problem with this bracket. All you're doing is replacing the closer. The fastest way that this is to remove is just open the door a few inches, hold this, putting pressure a little bit inward, removing the pin, letting it slowly close. It'll have a little bit of force on it. Removing this pin, and away we have removed it. To put it back in the new one, you grab the new one, you put it in here like that. We're going to apply a little bit of force, again, this direction. So we'll pull it over and push that pin down in. And we very quickly, under a minute, replace that. Now, as we'll see in a minute with mine, I have problems with the brackets. It's a little different in size, and it's a much older closer, so we need to do a few additional steps. All I have to do is I'm just gonna hold this to brace it, not with too much pressure, and then remove these 2 screws. And you are screwed into metal, so you know, it didn't take too much force there to remove that. And then I'll hold the second one. Just the reason I say hold is just because, you saw right there, just so it doesn't snap back on you and something fling at you. Good idea to probably wear eye protection on this so something doesn't fall at you if you're doing the top one. And there you go. Look at that. So we'll take out the second screw just so it doesn't fall on me. And really, at this point, I don't have to remove this pin. But, just to disassemble it, I could just take it out whole, but that's how it goes. It just goes through that hole right there. So we'll get that out of the way. And now at this point, there's no pressure on it. So I can just use my thumb and it's out. Now we're ready for the reverse to install. And again, I'm just going to retain this plate. There's no problems with it. It's not bent. If it was, then I would look to replace this. So one note of interest on the old storm door closer or pneumatic tube. I called it a hinge, but if you do search for these, they are typically called a storm door closer. But this one is also made by Wright, but it's so old, it's a made in the USA. So this is a little bit of a relic because it looks like Wright now, they are owned by probably Hampton here and made in China. But understand that's what keeps the cost low. That's these were very reasonable. Probably, I think it was like $15 to $20, depending on the style that you end up getting. The basic one being the cheapest. But yeah, kind of cool on this old closer, storm door closer, made in the USA. All right, so in my case, to give me a little bit of flexibility and to have a newer hole, I went ahead and drilled a new hole for my bracket right here. And what that, it's going to do two things. One, these two holes were getting older and a little bit wider, so I wanted a little better support. So I drilled a brand new hole, and all I needed to do was use a 1/8" metal drill bit. Very careful not to drill all the way through. After drilling that hole, here's what I want to eyeball. So we'll put, it's instructed to put the washer on the end. This is the lock washer that you can hold the door in place. And if you put it in here, what I want to see with the pinholes facing toward the closer, I want to get that lined up, and so I know which screw position to put it in. And you can see here that there's a little bit of distance, and that's good because once I drop that pin in, I'm going to pull this over, and that's going to create a little bit of tension or preload because I really don't want the door to slam, force, and shut all the way to the closed position. That in addition to this screw on the end, which allows you, when you tighten it more, to close slower, or if you go counterclockwise and loosen it, it will allow it to shut faster. So let's go ahead and get this mounted, get this pin in there, and we'll be done. Keep in mind as well, this is much easier to do when the hinges do not have tension. So if you've already replaced the bottom one, maybe you haven't connected it yet. All right. You also can open the door, 6 or 8 inches if you need to, in order to do this process. So if it's a new hole like this one, you can tell that I'm biting into the metal, which is good. I'm just pulling back on it at the same time. And then it goes. Then we'll put our second one in. I'm going to go ahead, since it's perfect alignment, put it on that last one there. That was one of the original holes. And don't tighten it down, but if you're using an existing hole, you don't want to wear that one out. So just get it nice and snug. And then I'll tighten down that new one. All right. There we go. So the last step is to use the 2 pins to install it. So there's a long pin and then there is a short pin. The short pin goes on the inside hinge. So if the door is in the way, just open it up. You drop that pin in from the top. It will just drop right down. There we go. One thing to note, there's a little tab on this brand. That's the one that goes upward. So I'll just go ahead and twist it. You can just twist the closer. And with the door open just a little bit, I'm going to have my pin ready. Pull on it and drop down the pin. At this point, I only have one strut on there, or one closer. You can move this back past the lock position, and depending on the speed of it, as you can see, we can tighten this to slow down the operation or loosen it to speed it up. So I will wait until both door closers have been installed to make the final adjustments to see how the door opens and closes and what speed that I like. Just to recap what we did, we removed the old one from the screws, took out the 2 pins, put in the new one. I took the extra step of drilling a fresh hole, which is not a requirement. We got it lined up, dropped in the 2 new pins, installed it, and we are done. Hope you found this helpful, and until next time, we'll see you later.